Desperate Songs, a Gothic tale by Rolando Enrique Rosales Murga. The human being, as we know him, with the little we understand about ourselves, may at some point lose all notion of reality and surrender to the romanticism and art flowing through his veins. There is a very old and well known saying that claims we all possess something of musicians, poets, and madmen. When the latter two become one and the same, there comes a moment when the rather of such thinkers is transported onto paths no one had ever known before. Such is the case of Abner Caleb, a young man who, at 17 years of age, has written more than 17 books, knows over 22 languages, and is a mathematician, philosopher, sculptor, poet, writer, orator, painter, and inventor. He possesses so many titles that I could not possibly recount them all. He tells a most curious anecdote about his life. Allow me to share it with you, exactly as I heard it from the lips of that prodigy. As a child, I was very sickly. Every night I dreamed of coffins. Inside them were many stuffed animals, which would rise and mount toward a river of fire and vapor stretching through a dark and pestilent city. Every night, within my cloud of dreams, I arrived at that place. On one occasion, I spoke with one of the inhabitants of those lands. He was a tall man, or at least he appeared to be a man. He was a strange giant. His skin bore a tremendous blush and a radiant hue. He claimed his name was Gothic. His voice unsettled me deeply, for it sounded multiple, deep, and filled with strange echoes. His gait was uneven, as one side of his body rose higher than the other. He would always say, "That Martian," or something close to it, as he shouted it aloud. At times, he whispered unintelligible things. They sounded like meaningless consonants, yet the air itself changed direction whenever he did so. That extraterritorial province was exceedingly macabre, and upon the ground enormous creatures could be seen crawling. Upon the rooftops, harpies circled overhead. One could see many beings resembling crocodiles, with several tails and numerous eyes, yet possessing bodies strikingly like those of the human beings. These creatures also spoke. At dusk, strange songs were sung, stories forged throughout countless eons. They claimed that when dreaming they could escape that city. Then they would enter the minds of those who long to know more than others have achieved. Those people who force their minds beyond their limits and spend each night in exhausting labors. We arrived at that place, where immense stairways stretched upward, only to plunge suddenly into the void. We began to climb. When we reached the top, there was an endless abyss, a chasm whose bottom could not even be glimpsed. Within my mind, I searched for some accessible fragment of reason to explain such things, yet I could not. Then my anthropomorphic companion said to me, "In this place, beings must rid themselves of their skin. Simply leap, and let your dermis and epidermis remain abandoned here." So I leapt. I felt my entire integument leaving me behind. Then I realized that I had no color, yet within that place there existed many strange beings. The voices became unbearable, for there was tremendous uproar throughout that city. There was one very beautiful voice, singing mournful odes, arias so sorrowful they made one long for death itself. They caused tears and despair greater than anything that I had ever heard in all my existence. Then I began to ascend toward that lake. And I looked. The fire did not burn me. I could not even perceive the vapor. Between the steam and the flames, there were only many scrolls, resembling manuscripts. I took one and noticed it was sealed with fire. Its cover glowed red hot. As though dusting off an ordinary book cover, I brushed my hand across the fiery sea. Then the book opened. It contained no letters, yet it spoke with a voice of pain. It recounted the story of every citizen of that place. At times the book wept, at others it spoke of the exploits of small beings who had forged their stories and as heroes and who now lived above in the world we know. I tried to awaken from my deranged lethargy, yet something held me within that place. Suddenly, something shook me. I felt as though a hand were forcing violent spasms upon me, while shouting desperately in my ears. Then I managed to open my eyes. It was my father, my beloved and now deceased progenitor. I had spent 2 months upon that cold hospital bed. My energy was renewed. I spent entire weeks without sleeping. I read and read. Doing so granted me a strange catharsis and immense satisfaction. Thus, little by little, the humble servant now standing before you came to be. Sleep thou, it terrified me as a child. Now makes me yearn for it as an adolescent. Yet, my dreams are not so sane. Every night I discover new hidden places that exist only in my imagination. Then my young host fell into a sepulchral silence. His pale face and bony hands gave him a most macabre appearance. His long and exceedingly straight hair occasionally brushed against his upturned nose. Yet his eyes were the most unsettling feature, hazel, yet crimson, burning with such intensity that they made him appear strange, something beyond ordinary humanity. With his enormous height and exaggerated thinness, dressed entirely in black and in a deeply Victorian fashion, he suddenly spoke again in a gentle tone. He said, "I would love for you to stay for dinner tonight. My cousins are coming. They are very beautiful. I believe that someone as strange as yourself will please them greatly." So I replied, "Nothing would please me more, but I must go study through the night. I am behind in my personal investigations." "Then may your night be pleasant," said that strange man in farewell. I departed from that eccentric residence. I spent the journey reflecting upon what he had told me. What a deranged story was harbored within such an extraordinary being.